I'll tell you for sure, one thing for certain, Ben would want this to be brief. So I'd like to reflect on the life of a very good friend. We're here this evening to reflect on the life of our good friend, Ben Wood. Each of you have your own personal memories and stories about Ben, but I would like to share just a few with you. Ben was first rate at helping others solve problems. One evening in the summer of 2003, we were sitting on the back porch at the Blue Lantern, and conversation came around to my impending retirement from the college. I related to him my dilemma on what to do with the collection of local history, pictures of papers, and had no place to put them. And I really wanted to keep a place in town. Well, he responded that the old Casey Mill Supply building on 9th Street might be for sale. We talked on, and he suggested we buy the building together. And it might also be a good place for the Historical Society to hold meetings there. And it was his idea that I would have an office there too. Another memory comes to mind. One year we were traveling, hunting antiques, and found ourselves up in Ohio. We traveled all day, Ben, of course, doing all the driving, and I was concerned about a place where we were going to spend the night. Well, Ben went right on driving, just like I hadn't said a word. Finally, a cheap motel came in sight, which I thought would be better than sleeping on the ground. Ben kept driving. Didn't say a word. He kept quiet until we reached Lebanon, Ohio, where before us stood a beautiful old hotel, the Golden Lamb. Antiques galore were there, plus a beautiful place for us to spend the night. It was there that I learned that he could drop off to sleep, not in mid-sentence, but in mid-word. Ben loved to play a practical joke. When we opened the Historical Society office, he presented me with a brass plaque containing the names of two of my ancestors. One of them, Manicus, who lived 20,000 years ago, and Bramward Lips, who lived 19,000 years ago. That plaque still hangs on the wall. Several years after we attended the sale of Fickens Barbershop in the Phoenix building, unbeknown to me, he bought a stuffed elk head and brought it to the Historical Society office where it hangs today, showing the way to the facility. By this time, Ben would say, "You've said enough, Turner." So I will close with these words about friendship. As I look around among you today, I know that the real celebration is not the fact that Ben lived 78 years. It is rather a celebration of friendship, of kindred spirits who find each other and hold on for a lifetime. Let us be as generous as Ben was with the best gift we could give each other, the gift of friendship.
I'd like to share a few things with you about Ben. All of you know Ben very obviously, knew everybody, and everybody knew Ben. After Mr. Wood died, he gradually changed the name from Little Ben. He became Ben. Big Ben, Little Ben. We started in high school with our first getting in trouble deal. I had sex period in the office with Mr. Redmond as he had been. And Ben helped his aunt take care of everything in the office. And I ran all the errands. And they'd send me anywhere and everywhere all the time, but I had to go to the bank. Every day I had to go to the bank. Well, we got the ring money in the spring for the next year. And I had a knee operation. So I couldn't get out and get around. I was in Texas. And so Ben was assigned to drive me around. And he'd get out, and got out. Well, we were on an errand, and we were on Junior Street, and an ambulance goes by. And we got $3,000 worth of ring money. The ambulance goes by, and then the state trooper went down. And then another ambulance goes by. And then another state trooper. 4 ambulances went by. So we're sitting there looking at each other. He said, "Well, you got a little time. Let's go see what's going on." So everybody followed. Goes out Madisonville. We're all the way out Madisonville Road. I said, "Ben, we might think about going back." He said, "It can't be too much further." I said, "Okay." So finally we ended up crossing. And it is a massive wreck. Head-on collision, another car, 3 cars. Of course, we were blocking traffic there. They took southbound back and opened it up and wouldn't let anybody turn around, so the emergency vehicles could come in. So we're back at school at 3 o'clock, usually. I'm looking at my watch, and it's 3:30. Then I said, "No." Ben said, "What are we going to do?" There's no cell phones, I can't walk, so I'm walking back. But eventually we got back. And when we got back, of course, we were met by Mr. Redmond. Now, I don't know how many in this room know Mr. Redmond. Mr. Redmond was 6'5", and weighed probably about 240. He was the principal. Where you boys been? One of the does I think I get a better answer than I could, So we eventually, Ms. Proctor smoothed it out for us, being there. Next time he got me in trouble. We went up, he called me, he said, let's go ball game. He said, Tom Osborne wants to go, let's go. And I said, okay. He said, we're going to take Tom Stepson. And I said, that's fine, too, let's go. I said, where is it? He said, Dallas. I said, oh, we're going to the Dallas Cowboys. He said, yeah. And so we load up in Cadillac. Here we go, Dallas. When we get down there, we go in this store, and it was Cutter, Bill's, Western Wear, Flush. The Neiman, it was advertised, the Neiman Marcus of cowboy clothes. And so, of course, Ben, he didn't have, well, he had one pair of pointed shoes, I think. The rest of them were boots, all different types of boots. And so when we go in, Mr. Wood, and they take it back, they got a section, you can order a drink, they take care of you there. I mean, it's really a nice place. So, Ben talks me into buying a cowboy hat, which I wore one time. And it wasn't cheap. So, we're going to go to the Playboy Club that night. And when we get there, they've got the coat check. And Tom's stepson, he was about 9 years old. And of course, the lady at the coat check pushed up. And that's kind of like this height. He's climbing, trying to get up and say what's going on. And so we get back. And so I hand her my hat. I was so proud. And I say, oh, John, I'll give a check so I can get back. She said, no, I'm only going to do things like that. She said, this is only half back here. So, not everybody in Texas wears a hat. But we had so many good times together, and I don't want to take away from anybody else. But we could tell you stories all night long. And Ben was a good friend. He and William Turner were the best friends. And you talk the world of William Turner, you all know. We went through a lot together, good times, bad times. We had a lot of mutual friends. I'm going to miss him. It was all of us with him. Very fortunately, he made our 60th class reunion this year. He made 2 nights. And he got to see everybody. And then the celebration, the summer celebration out at the house, Blue Lantern, Love, got to see a lot of people. So that was good. You hate to see anybody deteriorate from the person you know this, but it happens. And we've all got to live with it. I miss him already, and I know all you will too. We did a lot of this people. Oh, wait a minute, raise that for it. Ben was a marketer. I mean, he could market anything. And we'll step on Steve. So that's one thing we're going to talk about together. And so we'll let Steve bring that up. But he always run things around him when he was marketing something. You would talk about this, talk about that. And well, one, he didn't agree to disagree with him. Oh, I think it's good. But anyway, I finally disagreed with him one time. And I said, if you put that out there, I said, don't ask me to wear it.
Can't see it in the back, it says copper stick.
Great. Kathy and family, thank you for inviting me to share a few words with you tonight about Ben, which I treasured as a good friend. I didn't know him as long as Brother William and some of his classmates. I guess it was about 1970 or something before Ben and I became close as friends. We took some trips together with Kathy. We went up to Going State Fair, and Ben would reflect how, as a boy, he would go there. The stalls that his daddy used to use for the horses at the trotting races, and where he'd go get his shaved ice or his funnel cake. He always had something that he enjoyed, but he liked to show it to you through his eyes. And I so appreciated that. The trip we took up to St. Genevieve, he found a metallurgist up there that built the front gate fence that is there now in front of the copper still. He spent quite a time going back and forth with him. But back to the trip to Decoin, the first time we went, Bob Hope was the master of ceremonies. So that's been a while. Bob hadn't been around with us. Ben was more than a friend to me. He was a confidant. A French word that means having full trust. And if Ben was your friend, he had full trust in him. And if he and I were partners in business, there's some things, and he had full trust. I appreciated that so much. But I'm going to tell you one little story that he didn't have full trust in. It was the first time I think he ever really talked bad to me. But we were at the country club one night, he and I. I don't know why it was just the two of us. Normally it had Marion Sisk or David Collins or back in the heyday, Bill Williams, because Bill loved to go out to eat. Brings back a story about Myra Kay when she first went into business. Monday night she had all you could eat ribs. Bill and Ben and I, we put her out of business in about 2 years with all you could eat ribs. But we were sitting at the country club. Ben had his drink. We had ordered and had dinner. Both had a filet. His was cooked a little more than mine, but we were sitting there having a little conversation, and I thought, Ben, we ought to have dessert. Ben said, yeah. And we both had gained a little few pounds and had a little tummy on us, so I suggested to Ben, I said, Ben, let's share a chocolate cake. The country club got some real good chocolate cake. And a little ice cream on top, it's delicious. Ben said, nope. He said, you want any chocolate cake? Goddamn, you get your own chocolate cake. I'm gonna eat all mine. Hard word he ever spoke to me, but we understand. Ben was a wealthy man, but his true wealth was in his friends, and he's had so many home across the country. He's gonna be sorely missed. Kathy, you and the family, and everybody here tonight. We won't forget him. He'll be in our hearts forever. Thank y'all for letting me share. Thank you.
First, I'm honored to talk to everyone. Friendship is a strong theme tonight, it seems, and I claim to be the longest lasting friend of Ben of all our peers. Our mothers had us playing together at about 4 or 5 years of age. So I have some memories that go back further than the other people. And I thought maybe to be a little bit different, I would bring back some old memories. They go all the way back to our childhood and remind us of the way things were then. And then we'll tell a couple of stories like everybody does for fun. But we go way back. And I can remember his parents, Rachel and Big Ben, and he's been alluded to by somebody as Little Ben. And you know, in the South, if your father is the same name as you, you get to be Little Ben or Little Win. And so his mother was quite a singular person. She was the type that was willing to take a Cub Scout troop and do a good job at that. Now that's kind of wild. But At any rate, Ben's parents taught him wonderful manners. He taught him to respect people. A girl should never touch a door, you know, things like that. But we were brought up to be quite gentlemanly. And so I'll tell a little story about the little Ben. And I didn't hear Mr. Wood crack any jokes, but this was a slight thing. But one day I called out to the house, and we were getting a little older by then, and Mr. Wood answered the phone, and I right away realized I was somehow going to have to make a distinction between which one I wanted to talk to. So I fell back to saying, "Is little Ben there?" And he says, "Well, I guess that makes me Big Ben, but if I'm Big Ben, I should be in London." I never heard him say something like that. This seems a little different. Tell you another story from when we were young. We had a reasonably nice basketball court for a home court at my house. It had a fairly good sized goal, and the driveway was paved. Now, it did fall off about 7 inches from the top to both sides of the house, like vice versa. But it was nothing to have little ball games after school. And everybody wanted to play in our day. You didn't have to be really good or not so good. And we wanted to be outside. We didn't have games to play inside. But one day we were out playing basketball, and Ben, somehow he bumped into my arm with the sweater on and yanked my braces out. I always enjoyed going out to the farm, and like I said, we got together at a very young age, and then on up through grade school and stuff. And so a visit to the farm was always educational for a city boy. I remember first seeing the horse barn and how long it was. You know, I almost thought about making this a trivia quiz, but I think there must have been 20 stalls in there at least, you know, and how long that barn was. And then, now everybody knows the Woods raised horses, but there was a time that Ben had a 4-H project. And you couldn't guess what he was raising. He raised sheep. 4-H project. That just went on for a couple of years. And then there was the house. I remember one day climbing up ladders up on the second floor to look into the attic. And there were beams 12 inches in square, beams on the top of that house. And then all my life I coveted Ben's stairway. That stairway must have all have been there, but it was just amazing to me, and I never could build a house that would justify a stairway like that. If any of you don't know, it started out in the middle of the room, wide steps, went up to about 8 feet, turned around, hit a landing, turned around, and came back up another 4 feet on each side because the ceilings were all 12 feet tall. Now, Ben took that house and he bought twice as many antiques as he needed to fill it up. And I watched over the years as he made a lot of changes, and when it came to him living there. Lunch on the farm was the big meal of the day, as it was on many farms in those days. Now that was a treat to be there at lunch. We could ask people, does any, Diane can tell me, but did Estelle, was she the cook?
Yes.
Okay, but I remember Estelle. Now, to me, it was an amazing meal, and especially at lunchtime, because she would fix a whole meal, plus multiple leftovers from previous days. And I mean, you might have 5 or 6 days. She fixed either cornbread or maybe biscuits, I don't remember. Nevertheless, it was quite a meal. And then after we ate, they fed 2 or 3 farmhands. course, everybody knows Ben was into the trotting horses or the harness horses. And, you know, the average person, if they hear that you have horses, the first thing they think is, do you like to ride? Well, as a lady from Lexington that inherited a horse farm told me, oh no, we don't ride horses, we have horses. But Ben did get in, another trivia question, Ben did get into a certain type of riding horses for a short time. Harness horses, and I think, did he, no, I said the wrong thing, I mean, quarter horses. Yeah. And of course, that's the rodeo horses where they do the barrel races and stuff like that. And I guess he actually rode bits and riding in that. I know he was playing around with it anyway. Yeah, okay. Keep myself straight here. I spent a lot of time in training. After college, I spent 7 years in med school and residency in Lexington. And during my time up there, Ben would every now and then come to visit. And introduced him to a few friend girls that he liked to see. But he was also the race commissioner at that time. And he would have some little business to talk to people about. And one day he said, come go with me out to Castleton. I need to talk to the people out there. Now, my experience was looking at horse farms from the outside. But of course, we went right in, and Ben did his business. And he said, let's ride around the farm. So we rode all over the farm. And we stopped at a stable, and that thing was cleaner than a lot of people's houses from the farms. But anyway, just good memories. I was up there when Ben decided to buy a store in Florence, Kentucky, which is right there. And one evening, it was already dark, or getting dark, and Ben said, come, let's go up there, because I want to look at this place when I don't have a bunch of people around. But this is just a testament to Ben's business abilities. And so we all know he's a great businessman. But he wanted to go up there and check the building out, and he already knew how many cars went down Main Road, and he wanted to check how easy you could get into the store from all the one-way streets and things. We actually went around and tried it too. But Ben didn't make a business decision without having some good idea that, you know, things were going to work. Now, he only kept it a few years, and it was too hard to manage. But that's an unusual thing that most people don't know. That he at one time had a store in Florence, Kentucky. One time, I asked Ben, why don't you put in a restaurant and bar in town that a lot of nice people would like to go to? And he said, oh, restaurant's terrible investment. You know, he says, you know, you've got to buy tables and chairs, and you've got to have a lot of square footage, and you've got to, got the kitchen equipment. He said, it's liable to go out of business before you ever pay for it. He says, package stores are the way to go. It's just small square footage, and the best thing is you don't have people hanging around all the time. So anyway, I count up for fun, and I'm afraid I get long-winded, but I have a couple of stories again to illustrate the fun we had as good friends. The first story involves Ben. Another trivia question, what kind of car did Ben have in high school? He had a red, I guess it was 1960 Chevrolet convertible that his dad got him. So we had taken the car to go take our college admission test in Bowling Green. And it was a cold spring day. When we got through the test, we felt like celebrating a little, so we put the top down. And it wasn't too cold to have the top down. The car had a bench seat, as most of them did back then. And there's three of us, Chuck Beer and Ben and I, sitting across the front seat with the heater on full blast, and the coats on, and the heater on, and the top's down. And this could not have happened if we arrived at this 15 or 20 seconds later. we pulled into the little town of Auburn, and they were just finishing up a small parade. And we pulled in right behind the last unit in the parade. Chuck Brewer jumped up on the back. Like he was mayor. And another story, again, relates to the office work that we got to do at the high school. If you were a senior and had all the credits you needed, you could take office, and you really didn't. You just ran errands and things, and sort of how, a little bit about how they ran the office. Wasn't much to it, just a way to get out of the class. So, all kinds of things came out of the office period, as they alluded to already. And this story gets a little lengthy, but one day Ben was running an errand for the school, and he parked down beside the John Green department store, but he parked on the side street. And as he was coming back to his car, he looked down the alley, and there was a mannequin. Now, the mannequin had no feet, no arms, and no head. But Ben takes the mannequin, puts it in his car, takes it over, and he put it in my car. This popped up in the front seat. Now, my car wasn't very cool, and my dad was better than that, but I had a little Corvair that was pastel green, looked like it would float. So I walked out of school, and there's a group of 8 or 10 people standing sort of close to my car. And then I walk and say, what in the world is that? And everybody just works that way. So I get in and take it home. I get to thinking, what can I do with this? Well, I thought, Ray had a special parking place. He parked right up next to the school. And so the next morning, I brought the mannequin to school, and I sat out, had it wrapped up in a tarp. And I sat out in the parking lot and waited for Ray pulled up. You remember this at home? So I waited for Ray pulled up, and then I drove up beside him, took the mannequin and laid it across the front seat of his car. Took the car off, got in my car, goes back. And then I started telling people, look out in Miss Hamby's room, straight down at Ray's car. I walked in there about 4th period, and I thought I was in trouble because there was a crowd by the window and everybody looking down and laughing. And Miss Hamby would walk over and she would look out way, and she would say, I just can't see what they're looking at. But anyway, I was a pretty straight guy. I didn't want to be in trouble. But anyway, so I thought for sure I was in trouble. Now, Ray, being easy going like he is, he came out to get in his car. The mannequin was, Ray just took the mannequin, said, ha, 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 raised it up against the building. Well, then, I think it might have been Gary Shepard, or somebody that picked it up and took it to the band room. And then Mr. Fern didn't quite like that being in the band room, so he started trying to find a way to get it home. And somebody had seen Ben with it, and they got Ben and he took it home. Well, that's the end of the local story. But I'd say I've talked too much. Now, after about 2 or 3 years of college, Ben and I'd come home and we'd call each other, have Christmas, summer, how you doing? And one day I said, Ben, you still got that mannequin? He said, well, I think it's out there in the garage. And now this is before 4,000 whiskey goes. So anyway, long before. So he still had it. And I took the mannequin home. And since it had no feet, I built a box for it to stand in. And it had a little brace on the side, a little clip for a brace. And I made a brace and so that it would stand up. And I put 2 hooks out where the arms should be, coat hooks. And then I painted a tan on it. And then I painted a necklace on there with our fraternity emblem on it. And so then I took it back to school, put it up in my dorm room, put a coat on it and a shirt or something. And so some of the Journey brothers came by and said, "Oh, you've got to take this down to the house." And so I did. Now, we had a utility closet in the back. Now, our fraternity house did not really have a house mother, and only 4 officers lived in it. But we had a utility closet. We got a little name tag on there that said house mother. And so anytime we were showing people around, we'd open the doors, and this is our house mother. And then she got dressed up for parties. And somebody went out and got a skimpy bikini, and we put balloons, they put balloons on and all of the parties. And then, of course, it was very obvious to everybody. So somebody from the University of Tennessee was visiting at our fraternity house, saw the mannequin. They sent their pledges up to steal the mannequin and leave a bust in its place. So last I knew, the mannequin went to the University of Tennessee. Well, we had a good time, and it's one remarkable thing that we were having such a good time without getting into really bad stuff. It seems like kids get into nowadays. I'll get a little more serious here with just a few closing thoughts. Some character traits of Ben that I thought sort of set him apart from anybody that seems like a good guy. Ben was an amazing observer of people. And he really could just tell you just from watching people, he would give you good advice for that matter. Ben always respected, no matter how wealthy Ben got, he always respected the common man and treated him fairly and nicely. And another thing that I liked is Ben did not push his ideas on you. Now, if you ask him, he'd give you his opinion, and that's a good thing. Most everybody respected that, I think. It's been said that the greatest treasures in life are good friends and family, not wealth and fame. Ben enjoyed his friends until the very last day. We lost a good friend.
First, I'd just like to say thank you to Kathy and the family for allowing me to come here tonight and have a few words about my friendship with Ben Wood. The first third of my life, first 25 years of my life, I knew Ben Wood, and we were kind of friends. Everybody knew Ben Wood and his family. I went to the 8th grade at Hopkinsville High, and of course, Ben was a sophomore. And Ray, this whole bunch, for the most part, were sophomores, so we, of course, looked up to those guys. I knew who they were, and I went out to Christian County High in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, so we kind of got apart, and then we all went away to college, and so we didn't have a whole lot to do with each other, particularly, except maybe in the summertime. But when we got home from college, that's when business kind of picked up for us. And probably the last 45 or 50 years, Ben and I really had some fine times together. I'm going to tell you about a few of them. I can't tell you about all of them. There's people in the audience who told me last night, please don't tell about all of them. But I really believe that one of the happiest experiences that I had with Ben occurred when in the late 70s, and I was coaching a girls' women actually, slope pitch softball team. My wife, Shelley, was a member of the team, and I've been coaching for a number of years. We go pay entry fees in tournaments and, go play most of the weekend. So I had this great idea. Y'all were talking about his good business decisions. This might not have been one of the best ones, but I went out there thinking maybe Ben would be a sponsor for us and, maybe pay some of those entry fees. So I said, "Would you want to do that, Ben, maybe and sponsor us in some of these tournaments we go to?" He said, "Oh yeah, that'd be a great idea." Well, his idea and my idea were different. He had a vision, man. He said, "Yeah, I'll sponsor y'all." But he said, "This is going to be my team, our team." He said, So he said, I'm gonna name them the Copper Steel. He said, it's gonna be advertising. And he said, you know, he went out and started buying equipment, and he bought everybody on the team, like 15 girls on the team, right? So he bought everybody like, you know, the top shirts, the pants, long pants, stirrups, jackets. I mean, everything you could need to play softball, he bought it for all these girls, right? And so, but then it got better than that. He got them travel bags to carry all the stuff in. But then he got a Winnebago. Y'all remember that? He came with that Winnebago, and he'd have the tub in there, iced down with products from the Copper Steel. So everybody wanted to play for us. And so we were like recruiting players. So Ben with me several times to recruit some of these girls. And we had players from our team from all over western Kentucky and from Montgomery County, Tennessee, Fort Campbell. We went on post one time. Ben went with me a lot of times. Kathy, this is before you, so I think he just liked being around those girls. But anyway, we recruited a girl who was, we later found out she was a member of the Panamanian Olympic volleyball team. We saw her playing softball, Kelly, on post, and we recruited her to come and play for us, and she did. She was an outstanding athlete. But anyway, during the years of 78, 79, we played about 100 games during the summer. That's, you can imagine that. We were just playing on weekends only. We won about 75% of them. But Ben would always get those trophies. He loved to win those trophies. They're out there at Blue Lantern right now, I bet. I bet he's got them all. And I remember we had one that was about 5 foot tall, at least, the one down at Murray. I bet he's still out there. You might not catch, he's shaking her head. But anyway, we had so much fun doing that, and everything, I didn't finish it. Then while we were there, he would take us out, and he'd take the whole team out to eat, and he'd pay for the hotel rooms when we were staying in another town. So I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals didn't have a general manager better than we did. Ben took care of his team, and I know we really enjoyed that. Now, I've got to tell you one story that happened then. Well, let me say this. I said, Ben, when I asked you to sponsor this team, I didn't really think about you spending this kind of money. That's not what I had in mind. But this is what he said, y'all. You know this is what he said. He said, well, I'd rather spend the money on advertising for this bunch of girls than I would to pay taxes to the government. Advertising expenses was business plan there. Plus, we had a lot of fun with it. Now, here's one funny story in our away from softball. One time, we were in Glasgow, and Ben didn't go that time, and so we won that tournament, but something happened during one of the games. I was coaching out on the base, and I heard the office noise, office racket, everybody was looking in our dugout, and I kind of went over there, and one of the girls that was up against the back of the dugout, and she was like this, and she was kicking the back of the dugout. When I later found out, she was mad because she wasn't getting played, and so she just went back there and was kicking all the boards off the back of the dugout in Glasgow, Kentucky. And so the parks director told me, y'all got to pay for this. I said, well, so I called Ben. I said, well, Ben, I've got some good news and bad news. He said, well, tell me the good first. I said, well, you won that tournament, got you another trophy you're going to bring home. I said, bad news is you got to repair a dugout. So I guess he did. We never did anything. That was I guess you would say that was an unanticipated expense, Mr. Deputy. All right, so let's switch gears just a minute. You know, Ben was one of a group of people that tried to convince me to run for county judge executive in '93. We used to have these meetings up at the old deputy's office. And I wrote down the guys. A lot of people were involved in this, but this was kind of like the brain trust. Now think of this. It was Ben Wood, Bill Williams, Doug Myers, Bill Defford, and Andrew Self. They were all kind of around there anyway. Now, you couldn't hire a better political advisors than that. I couldn't afford to pay for them. But anyway, they kind of told me what to do and how to run the campaign, and I was damn, we were successful. So I always appreciated him for that. He always had a great feel for the people in the community. Somebody said that a while ago in another way, but he could read people. He always knew the pulse of the community and what people were feeling and what the issues were and what the right answers might be. And so I always he was just a very close friend all the years I was in office. A lot of times he would be in the courthouse late at night and checking on the deeds and so forth. He'd always come to my office about 4:30, 4:20. We stayed there at 6 o'clock and just basically just laughing and telling old stories. But he was a great advisor. He would always give you his opinion. Even if you didn't ask for it, he'd give it to you. But I always asked for it a lot because I valued his advice. All right, one more story quick from my being county judge. Of course, we did a lot of weddings down there. We did over 11,000 weddings during my 29 years. A lot of them Fort Campbell weddings, of course. Once again, kid. But anyway, one time I was in Washington, D.C. at a meeting, and I came back, and Sylvia Gillette, who worked with me there, kind of said, "Come here, I want to show you something." And she took me outside and carried me to the little building next door, which was a little building where we performed wedding ceremonies. We kind of called it a chapel, I think is what it used to be called. But anyway, there was a sign hanging there in red and white. It said, "Judge Tribble, apostrophe S, Judge Tribble's Chapel of Love." I said, "Mike, who did that, Sylvia?" It was hanging on 2 chains with some hooks. Sylvia said, "I can't tell you." She said, I'm sworn to secrecy. And I said, "Well, I remember saying that if you just be quiet, sooner or later, somebody would say something." So I bet it wasn't a week or 10 days. And Ben was the guy. And Ben said something about that sign with him. And then, so he told me all about it. Now, let me tell you who's involved in that. William Turner, Bill Williams, Ben Wood, and they got Charlie McGuire to paint the sign. They hired him to paint that sign. But they put it up without telling me because they thought that'd be funny. And I was always thinking that people would see it and they said, "Oh, Tribble's been here so long, he thinks he owns these buildings." So I said, "Keep that sign on the inside." So when we were doing weddings, I'd hang it up and I'd keep it on the inside. Ben was the guilty dog that barked. Now, somebody mentioned this while ago too about how he could relate to anyone. I mean, Ben, he did. He related to the common man. I've seen him do so many things to help people. There's so much he did in this community that some of you that knew him well, I know all you guys know about it, but he helped people all the time. He hardly ever told anybody no. He just loved to help people. And but anyway, he had the ability, like if the governor was here, we had presidents come through here. Ben could meet them and talk to them and do just fine. Or he could go down and talk to the guy outside the copper steel. He could carry on a conversation with him. And he knew him, and he knew his family, and he really cared about people. And so he was just really very kind-hearted and generous. And like I said, a lot of people don't know what all he did, but I'm almost through. In the past few years, Ben and I had many discussions just talking about things that we used to do. We laughed, and man, we both agreed that even though our bodies began to kind of fail, we couldn't do the things we used to do, that as long as we did not get dementia or something, we could still sit around and remember, had our memory, and we could laugh and tell these stories. We felt like we could always have a good time like that. So I would just say that he was a very great friend to me. And I've always heard that to have many friends, you got to be a good friend. And Ben was a good friend to everybody. I don't think we'll find anybody that disagrees with that. So we are going to all miss him in our community. And but thank you for letting me say a few words. Hope I wasn't too wrong.
Good afternoon. When we were assembling this afternoon, backstage as it were, you'll see on your program my name and Bill Deathridge's, and I was told that Bill Deathridge was still in court and might not be here, and they said if he doesn't come, you'll have to do the closing argument. Unfortunately, I don't have to do it, and he is here, so he can do the closing argument. Since I grew up in Elton and went to Grace Church in Hopkinsville, where my mother had been brought up, I knew a great many people during my youth. In fact, my best friend Tommy Higgins and my girlfriend Susie Thurman ensured that I'd be in Hoptown on weekends, every weekend. I remember going to a birthday party, Diane, for you at the Blue Lantern during those years. I think Diane and I are the same age, but Ben was a couple of years younger than I am. And as we all remember, teenagers don't pay much, if any, attention to those who are behind them in class. But beginning in 2006, I certainly made up for lost time. My close association with Ben and Kathy therefore began when I returned from New York to live in Kentucky. creeping up on some 20 years ago. Ben shared with me and our county historian William Turner an all-consuming interest in period architecture, and we enjoyed many lively conversations over the years, comparing notes frequently on places we just visited. All three of us live in historic 19th century homes, of which we're justifiably proud. And in Ben's case, he lived at the Blue Lantern virtually all of his life. I've known only a few people in my 80 years of gathering and spending, mostly spending, that have lived in the same family home basically all of their days on earth. In addition to his many other interests and contributions to our community, Ben served with distinction on the board of the Carnegie Library for many years during a period of time when we were struggling, and I do mean struggling, to restore the library and to ensure that from the foundation to the roof it would spring back to life and take its place in Hopkinsville's architectural firmament. It's hard to get out. Thank you, Ben. Ben was not one to toot his own horn, and he didn't have to. As many of you sitting here, if not most or all of you, know only too well, you would frequently find out after the fact that when some burning issue in the community had turned out just the way it was supposed to, it wasn't unusual to find that Ben had some silent part in it, some silent hand in it, and all of you, I'm sure, can think of a number of examples of that. For many years, a close-knit group of friends, which included Ben and Kathy, enjoyed a movie night at Roanoke every Wednesday. Sadly, those evenings recently had to be curtailed due to issues of driving at night. After the movie, it was not unusual for us to sit around talking about days gone by, remembering the many amusing things that happened during our formative years here, and many important people in our lives who have now, like Ben, entered the life triumphant. My hat is off and my head is bowed to both Ben and Kathy. And Kathy, you know I mean this sincerely, for continuing to live life to the fullest during the period when Ben's health began to decline. Instead of locking the door, pulling down the shades, and awaiting the inevitable, they continued to go out and do things in the community, to attend events, to entertain at home, and to go to dinner parties, frequently at Peggy Mullen's on Fridays. There is no doubt in my mind that this prolonged his life. I'm sure it did. One might say that they were still dancing when the music stopped. I can't think of a better epitaph than that. Congratulations to you both on that score, and we all can sign on to the fact that Ben's was a life well lived. Hail and farewell, Ben. We'll see you on the other side.
Good afternoon. For those of you who were hoping I wouldn't make it, sorry to disappoint you. Ben Wood was a dear friend, a long-time friend, and I'm trying to think back and say, when did Ben and I get to know each other? I think it was probably back in grade school when some of you remember Mary Tom Hamlin used to have parties at her house. And I knew Mary Tom through First Christian Church, and Ben would show up at those parties, and I think that's when he and I began our association. No, we didn't do that. Now I'm going to share a few stories with you. I hope Kathy doesn't get too upset with some of these. Ben Wood was a nerd. He was a true nerd. When I first got to spend a whole lot of time with him in what we would call middle school, about the 8th grade. And back in those days, all of us went to different grade schools out in the community. And then in the 8th grade, we went to high school, in the high school building. And I think Ray probably shared some of this with you, but Ben was kind of a teacher's pet. He walked around with a top button. You know, he'd go with a fancy car. He was probably politer than most of us. His mother had a strong influence over that thing. And so, but he would get the teachers would get him to go and take things and deliver them places, and I think they were just ready to tell them the money stories about delivering money to the bank and all that sort of thing. Well, the Ben grew out of it. He started out in the 8th grade, kind of a nerd, you know, teacher's pet, but believe me, he grew out of it. I'll tell you a couple of stories. I don't know if Ray covered any of these or not, because the three of us became really good friends through the years. Ben, I did legal work for Ben, and one time he came to me and said, "You want to buy a piece of property, some farmland that was near his land out on the Princeton Road?" I said, "All right, well, you know who owns it?" "Well, not really." I said, "What do you mean, not really?" He said, "Well, it's passed down through generations, and some heirs own it." I said, "Well, Ben, do you know who the heirs are?" He said, "Well, not all of them." But he found one lady who had inherited a substantial interest in this farmland, and so we were going to try to. Ben thought, well, I want to try to buy her interest, and that'll be a start, and I can maybe do some more, or find some more. So I said, "All right, Ben." He said, I said, "Well, you know where she is?" He said, "I think so." Well, already I started wondering. And I said, "Well, where do you think she is?" He said, "Up around Chicago." I said, "Chicago?" He said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "Well, are you going to go, you been in touch with her?" "Well, no, not really." I said, "Well, Ben, you know, you need to get in touch with her some way." So he finally found out a way and talked to this lady. He said, "All right, I'm gonna see if we can work a deal with her." He said, "I want you to go with me." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I want you to go with me." So, for some reason I agreed. I don't know why. But I prepared this deed, and we were gonna, Ben and I were gonna, back then he had some little Volkswagen Rabbit or something. You never knew what kind of car Ben was gonna show up in. But so he and I loaded it up in his car. We had a deed, and on the way up there, Ben said, "Here, I want to give you something to hold in this strip." I said, "Okay." He walked around, he saw, "Hand me a pistol." I said, "Oh, okay, Ben." This was kind of cold weather. I remember it was cold weather. And so we drive up to Chicago, and Ben, we're driving around, he's trying to find this location. And we stopped at this place and asked them, said, Ben, we asked them what they knew where the address. We thought we were close, but we were pretty much lost. And this address, you know how we get there, and I remember the guy, I think it was a service station, the guy looked at us and said, "Y'all not going down there, are you?" So, okay. So, by then it was late in the afternoon, dark, and so, I said, "Ben, I don't think we ought to go down there at night." And this place didn't have the highest credibility for lack of crime. And so we said, we gotta find a place to stay. Well, we didn't want to drive all over because we thought we were near where we were going. And so we found this Well, Ben found this hotel, motel. And I think this was, it turned out it was one of these hotels and things like out. We get a room, and go in this room, and this place was filthy. If I can remember correctly, I think there was a mirror on the ceiling. So we're in this hotel, and this place was just, just felt like something was crawl on it. So Ben and I slept on top of the bed. We didn't want to get near the sheets or anything. We slept on top of the bed with our clothes on. The next morning, we said, no way am I going to take a shower in this place. So we didn't. But so we ventured down toward the address where we were going. I said, Ben, you got some money on you? And he said, well, yeah. I said, how much you think? You don't have to pay. How much you got? He said, 10,000 in cash. I said, 10,000 cash. So we finally found this place, nicest lady you'd ever meet, and Ben and she went in the room. But this was kind of a rough neighborhood, and I remember sitting in there with my overcoat on and my hand in my pocket. And I had something in my hand. So, but anyway, being a good businessman, he pulled it off. And so the lady was willing to sign the deed, but then we had to find a notary. So we took the lady to a bank nearby, and they got enough to notarize her signature. So we came back home with a signed deed, signed notarized deed for this lady's interest in the property. And Ben was short a little cash. So that's one story. Ben was, as I said, he grew out of being a nerd. And one time I got a call at the office, and the girl came and said, Mr. Wood's on the phone, and he said it's real important. I said, okay. So I got on the phone, he said, Bill, I think I might need your help. I said, for what, Dan? He said, well, I hit this guy. I said, what do you mean you hit him? He said, well, he was harassing my dad. Now this was back, Ben's dad used to own the horseshoe, you know, everybody knows what a horseshoe is. He owned it. And Ben was out there behind the bar, and somebody came in, and Ben's dad usually would go, and even after they sold the place, would go in there in the afternoons and go to the bar and have a drink. And some guy started giving his dad a bunch of grief and started insulting Ben's father, and Ben just didn't take to that very well. He was behind the bar guy. So, as it turned out, Ben just got some bottle of some liquor or something, went out there and wore this guy's head out. So I said, well, I guess you do need my help, Ben. I said, we better get down and let you swear out a warrant real quick. He said, a warrant? I said, yeah, that guy tried to attack you, didn't he? So Ben filed for a criminal complaint. Another time, then we were in court. Not what the case was, but Ben was on the witness stand testifying. This was the old courtroom, the old circuit courtroom in the old courthouse. And the witness chair swiveled. Or something. So Ben is up there testifying, and I'm asking questions, and all of a sudden he goes, whoa. Finally, he got off the stand. What is wrong with you? He said,
Yeah, this one almost said that. That was Ben. We had a lot of fun, doing crazy things. Did Ray tell you about our trip to Miami? I'll leave Ray's part out of it. But, this, back when Tom Osborne and I were practicing law together, and there was a legal seminar down in Miami. And so Tom and I decided we were going to this seminar. Well, I happened to mention it to Ben, and Ben decided he'd go too. And so Ray ended up going with us. And so we take a flight down to Miami late at night. Some of the graveyard flight back. In fact, there were so few people on this plane that, I don't know why they called them stewardesses back then. I don't know why they let us do it, but we ended up serving drinks to these people. But at any rate, I'm gonna skip the part down there. We were coming back. Thank you later, Ray. We were coming back. We flew back into Nashville, and on the flight back to Nashville, there was this girl on the plane. And, nice, we got to talking to her, all of us did. She was a very nice girl. And, they can't remember exactly how this happened. Somehow the seat next to her opened up. Next thing I knew, Ben was sitting. So we got back to Nashville, and we were all getting off the plane. And Ben said, well, I won't be running back to Hopkinsville with you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm going to fly to California with her. She was on the way to California. So Ben ended up going to California. and Ray and Tom Osborne and I rode back to Hopkinsville, absent Ben. Ben, as most of you know, Ben was a collector. He collected all sorts of things. He never wanted to get rid of anything. And I remember, much to my surprise, we went out to his home one time hanging out there. I don't know how this subject came up, but toys you had when you were a child, a young child. Diane knows this quite well. Ben had every damn toy he'd ever had as a child, and had it in the original box that it came in, and had them put up. And I still remember that because I never met anyone who did that before. And Ben was kind of like Steve Triple. He knew a lot of folks. And I remember this. Steve and Bob, Steve, we were talking about something. We were just talking about people out in the county or something. And we couldn't figure out who it was or who we wanted to, what their name was or where they lived. And I said, Ben, for some reason we wanted to talk to this person. I said, how are we going to contact him? He said, I'll call Triple. And I said, what do you mean call Triple? He said, he knows everybody in the county. Sure enough. I was with him many a time when he would call Steve Tribble about somebody's name or where they lived or who they were kin to, and we got the information. In his talking about not getting rid of everything, you may not know, Kathy knows, Diane knows, that Ben has a piece of property over on 7th Street. Used to be the old way, so it was a horseshoe bar, they called it horseshoe bar at one time. And it's still there, and it's not in the best of repair, the outside of it. And I've harassed Ben for about the last 5 to 10 years about trying to get rid of that thing. I said, Ben, we need to get rid of it. Well, no.
he just doesn't like to get rid of stuff. So we tried to develop this theory, or approach, I guess, telling that the building inspector was gonna force him to sell that thing. Well, never could motivate him that way. And that thing is still there, on 7th Street, and needing repairs. Another, Ben loved animals. Just crazy about animals. And most of you know probably, he's got a pet cemetery out there behind the house where, one of his pets will die, they get a headstone. That's better than a lot of people. So he's got a cemetery with all of the pets, the dates, death, and all of that right behind the house. Well, at one time, Ben, for some reason, had this steer. I don't know if you remember this steer, and this steer kind of became his pet. And his name was Buster. Well, Buster stayed in this lot, kind of back behind the house there. And Buster kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And used to have fun with it. They did say, "Ben, when we gonna eat Buster?" Oh, we're not doing that or anything like we talk like that. So we just harass him every now and then about Buster. Ben would never do anything with Buster. Old Buster just got big and big and big. And finally Buster died. And we didn't get to eat Buster, he just died of natural causes. If I recall, Kathy, correctly, but Ben had to hire somebody with a backhoe to come in there and dig a big grave so we could get Buster. Ben was a dear friend, a good human being, a kind human being. You heard, good businessman, all the above, and he was a man who was obsessed with detail. Everything had to be so. And I remember suffering through some of his insistencies for detail. But it was good because it served him well. It served him well in the end. Ben, oddly enough, owned liquor stores, but he didn't drink much. Probably, well, no, between Ray Cobb and me, he drank less, and certainly a lot less than we did. And but every now and then he would have a scotch and soda. I think in the later years he started, he wanted a tall glass, that's right. In the later years he started ordering it in a tall glass. And what I'd like for you all to do, when you leave here, go home or go somewhere and have a drink with Ben. I think this is going to conclude our program, and we thank everybody for coming. Kathy, thank you for putting this together, letting us remember Ben. Diane, thank you. There won't ever be another one like it, I assure you of that. One of the rare people, as already been mentioned, who lived all his life in the same house. And a neat house. We used to tease him all the time, said, "Ben, what if you got 2 front doors?" And Ben, you got the only house I've ever been in that has an outside door that goes into the bathroom. Just some of the quirks. But Ben loved to, tease each other back and forth, have a good time. He was always happy. Yet he had a serious side to him. And as Steve Tribble mentioned, Ben played in politics a little bit, and he wanted things done right. So hope all of you can remember Ben and remember him fondly. And as I said, tonight or whenever you have the next opportunity, raise a glass in honor of Ben Wood. Thank you.